The film that will be analyzed and compared with the play Macbeth by William Shakespeare is a 2010 adaptation of Macbeth, directed by Rupert Gould. The film begins with several images of a battle with advanced weaponry such as tanks, guns, and planes. We are briefly introduced to two figures who we later find out are Macbeth and Banquo. The setting in the film is also shifted from an 11th century Scotland and England to a peculiar mix of Scotland and a World War II Soviet Union. Then the setting shifts to a crowded hospital hallway. The witches in the film are taking care of the injured captain while he retells his story. In his description of Macbeth and Banquo's heroics, the captain dwells specifically on images of carnage. Quote, "He unseamed him from the naves to the chops," end quote, he says, describing Macbeth's slaying of Macdonald. In the film, Malcolm and Duncan exit instead of the captain, so that Act 1, Scene 1 can transpire. The witches are introduced as nurses. They tend to show up in scenes where Shakespeare doesn't list them, never talking, but just observing Macbeth and everyone else. In the film, it seems that the witches injected the captain with a substance that led to his death, but the explanation to this is unclear. This scene establishes a dark mood that permeates throughout the whole play. It could have served as emphasis of how evil the witches are. Act 1, Scene 1 begins when the lights of the hallway are shut off, therefore creating a dreary and obscured tone.
Shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain?
When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won.
That'll be ere the set of sun. Where the place?
Upon the heath.
There to meet with Macbeth.
Gould efficiently uses all of the Shakespearean dialogue from the play. However, he removes some lines and alters some scenes in order to better establish the plot. A noticeable difference between the play and the film is that the film begins in Act 1, Scene 2, and then is followed by Act 1, Scene 1. Gould cleverly adjusted these scenes so that the plot would make sense. In the end of the scene, one of the witches yanks the bloody entrails of the captain, which they later use to create a mysterious figure. They proceed to say the speech that is exactly the same as in the play.
Hover through the fog and filthy air.
Fair is foul, and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy air.
The film, during Act 1, Scene 3, establishes a literal translation of the play. Using the World War II apparel, the witches use their profession to further portray the text. When the audience first sees the witches after the opening scene, in the text, the first witch claims that she, quote, has a pilot's thumb wrecked as homeward he did come, unquote, and in the movie she appears holding a whole hand in her right hand and a saw in her left.
I run, Macbeth doth come.
Sisters hand in hand, coasters over sea and land, thus to go about, Christ alive and Christ alive and Christ again to make ground nine.
Peace, the charm.
Macbeth mentions that he does not know if they are, quote, fantastical, unquote, or women because their, quote, beards forbid me to interpret that you are so, unquote, which Gould decides to express using surgical masks. The character in the background settles an eerie hue, which helps stir the evil presence of the witches. Gould also chooses to have the camera zoom in on the first witch's mouth, giving the audience an emphatic gesture to hear what she says, as opposed to the text, which does not call for that in the stage directions.
Hail to thee, Thane of Glamis.
All hail, Macbeth. Hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor.
All hail, Macbeth. Thou shalt be king hereafter.
In the movie, Gould decides to leave out Banquo's finishing lines before the witches speak about his prophecy, in which he says that he, quote, neither begs nor fear your favors, nor your hate, unquote, which in turn leaves the audience to surmise, when he smiles, he believes what the witches predict. The film also decides to keep the statement where the witches say, quote, so all hail Macbeth and Banquo. Banquo and Macbeth all hail, unquote.
Banquo and Macbeth, all hail.
Stay, you imperfect speakers, tell me more. By my father's death I know I am Thane of Glamis, but how of Cawdor? The Thane of Cawdor lives, a prosperous gentleman, and to be king stands not within the prospect of belief, no more than to be Cawdor.
This part here is essential for the foreshadowing of the conflict that Macbeth will have with himself about ending Banquo's lineage and Duncan's life.
Speak! I charge you!
Above the cauldron go, in the poison enter through, Toga under cold stone, days and nights is 31, smelt of venom, sleeping got, all the verse and tar and rot, toil and shore, fire, burn, and cauldron.
Very snake in the cauldron boiling big. I have you to toe a frog, will of bat.
After killing Duncan, Macbeth remains uneasy about his fate. Therefore, he seeks a second encounter with the witches. In the play, Act 4, Scene 1 portrays the witches circling a cauldron, chanting spells, and adding bizarre ingredients to their stew. This form of creepiness would be normal for Shakespearean time. However, in modern times, the witches' actions will not bring fear into the audience but rather repulsion. For this reason, Gould changes and creates a more darkened atmosphere, replacing the thunder and the fire characteristic of the play. He introduces a new form of creepiness into the film, portraying the witches as wicked nurses, adding shaking motions by the characters, and having a constant image of the witches next to cadavers.
With a baboon's blood, then the charm is firm and good.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes.
Open locks. Whoever knocks.
Gould continues to modify the scene when Macbeth arrives. In the play, the witches call the apparitions their masters, and they are created by the fire the witches are chanting to. On the movie, however, the witches invoke their monsters, which Macbeth urges them to do so. The difference here is that these monsters are actually the cadavers the witches were chanting to before. They take control of their bodies and add to the dark atmosphere present in the scene, which also embodies the entire movie.
Deathly show.
Tell me, thou unknown power!
He knows I thought. Hear his speech, but say thou naught.
Macbeth! 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 Beware, Macduff! Beware the sin of fight! Dismiss me! Enough!
This notion of fear can be felt by the chantings and the actions of the witches throughout the scene.
Had I 3 ears, I'd hear this.
Be bloody, bold, and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born shall harm Macbeth!
Listen, but speak not to it.
Be iron metals proud, and take no care who chase, who press, or where conspirers are. Macbeth shall never vanquish thee, until great Burnham Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him.
That can never be! Rise never!
In the movie, the witches embrace Macbeth at the end of the scene, implying they have control over his fate, revealing to the audience how both in the movie and the play, the witches have cruelly enjoyed manipulating Macbeth's actions through their prophecies. As seen in the previous scenes, Gould attempts to leave behind the gross images portrayed by Shakespeare in the play aimed to entertain 17th century Europe. He attempts to modernize The Witches to a modern Hollywood horror story for modern audiences.
And an eternal curse light on you! Let me know!
Macbeth! 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 Beware, Macduff! Beware the sin of fight! Dismiss me, Hilary!